The Hollowing, Chapter 9, The Hidden Place. As Jack ordered the prisoner away, he stormed out of the room in the direction of his private chambers. Sally knew this because they were once Oogie's private chambers, where she'd spent countless hours with her love. She forced her mind to go blank as she moved down the wall and out into the hallway. She was following the prisoner, heading in the opposite direction Jack had gone. Though this should have made her feel safe, it did not. She forced herself to go numb, convinced it was a trap, that Jack would have taken the secret hallway from the private chambers to the great stone statue in the courtyard. Just as Sally would pass the colossal tribute to the Fairy King, Jack would spring out and grab her. She willed her thoughts to be quiet as she awaited what she had feared most. The stitches that held her together grew tight, but that moment never came for Sally. She moved down the hall and through the courtyard with no sign of a trap. She moved silently along the trails as his captive in red, escorted by Jack's hollowed-out minions, moved through the swamps to the edge of the realm. They traveled so far out that Sally feared they would cross the threshold to the places she could not follow. But there, at the edge of her world, she saw them disappear below the cliff edge. Sally quietly waited, still not convinced Jack wasn't waiting around the corner, Kelsting at his side, ready to punish her for the rest of her existence. When Jack's sentries resurfaced from beyond the cliff face and started back toward town, Sally made her move. She did not have the luxury of the cover from the overgrowth she'd created in town. Her magic hadn't stretched that far. She swiftly moved out of the trees she'd used for cover and onto the path that led her past the guardhouse and over the cliff edge. As she passed the dilapidated building, she noticed a light through the foggy window, a small hovel where the wardens of this prison undoubtedly lived. She had slipped past the guards' quarters unnoticed and descended the concrete steps to the entrance of the dungeon below. This is where she would find all of Hollowing Town's captives. Jack had imprisoned at least 30 Asir since their conflict had begun. While not all the citizens of this kingdom were as imposing as the man in the red cloak, they were all warriors, hard men from a cold place. Many had been here for a long, long time. They lived on what food the 3 boys living in the guardhouse above could spare. Their food was rationed and scarce, so the prisoners that had been here the longest were the weakest. Their energy was low, and their minds ensnared in a prison where the magics at play made them oblivious to those in the cells next to them. Each prisoner that entered these walls in chains saw an empty and hopeless place devoid of light and life, except for the bugs, curious creatures that mainly kept to one cell, but would venture out when new arrivals would come. The prisoners would sit alone in the cold, damp cells and wait for random rations to be dropped from the pipes above. The Asir did not understand the songs that were sung, but they felt power in them, a belief that made them hope for freedom. As Sally surveyed the cells, she felt her world pause as it did the day she saw Oogie ripped apart by Jack's evil magic. There, in the corner of one of the cells, she saw Oogie's burlap shroud. Though nothing of his previous form remained, she realized in that moment that she would always know him, regardless of his appearance. As she stood there trembling, she fought back the hope that he was still alive, because that hope would be too much to bear if it were not true. Though she tried to push it down, the hope still swelled within her. And then the bugs came.